So now everybody has to be on their best behavior now. So. Okay. I know Lisa was in meetings today, and so she may, like I said, she may be running a little late. And actually, I think if we wanted to, let's see, how many people do we have from the board here? So I think we
1,
probably,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
okay. Let's see. I'm just trying to think if anyone else will be coming. We'll wait just a couple of minutes. Denny, I think, should be here, so we should have at least 8. That's half. And like I said, I know other people are traveling, so we may get a late. Plus, the weather is really nice, and I'm sure.
I think there was a big mess on the Aurora Bridge.
Oh, really?
What kind?
I think somebody might have jumped off.
I haven't looked out the window. I would be able to see that. So,
Not sure, but
that could be preventing people from getting where they need to go. I know there was a big police response apparently on the west side of St. Anne's this afternoon, that Laura let me know about, but don't know what was going on. So.
Oh yeah, I almost got hit by one of those police cars. They were gonna pull into the bike lane, but yeah. Then decided to go the wrong way up Queen Anne instead.
Yeah, lights flashing, sirens blasting.
You've got 8 people now.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's just go ahead with a couple of our business items, and that would be approving the minutes. So everybody on the board should have received those. Any questions, corrections? Otherwise, a motion to approve.
So moved.
Seconded?
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Tyler. Okay, the minutes are approved. And Ben, you can tell us how much we have in our piggy bank this month.
Okay. For our general fund, we have $2,096.96. And in the appeals account, we have $1,426.45.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's what we have. Couple of quick reminders about things that are coming up. Our July meeting will actually be July 12th, not the 5th, I guess it would be, because that was too close to July 4th. So we moved it out a week. Hopefully everybody remembers that, but just as a reminder. And one other quick reminder for the general good of the order, May 20th is One Seattle Day of Service, as the mayor had last year. So if you are leading a project and want to let us know about it, please share that and I'll put it in the newsletter. If you want to participate in a project, I will include the website that you can go to sign up as a volunteer. And there's actually a map that lists all the activities that are going on throughout the city. So find something that you like in Queen Anne or surrounding communities and go out and make a contribution on that One Seattle Day of Service. There will be some people working in McLean Park and the East Greenbelt. And I think there are a couple of other projects going on. So just FYI. And Matt, since you're here and Lisa isn't, I'm going to ask you if you mind just going ahead and presenting first.
Yeah, Paula, I'm happy to do that.
Great, thank you.
I'm not sure if I've got access to share my screen.
You do?
Great.
And I don't think I have to. There you go. Yep, that's working. Perfect.
Awesome. Well, I'll just get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of the Queen Anne Farmers Markets. We are Seattle's only independent farmers market. What that means is we're serving specifically the Queen Anne community. We're a 501c3 nonprofit entering our 16th season of operation. Looking forward to another great market season. Let's see, we have 24 market days scheduled this year, kicking off May 13th. That's 2 Saturdays from now. For our spring preview market, 10 a.m. to 3. Then we'll start our Thursday season, June 1st, October 12th, for 20 consecutive Thursdays, 3 p.m. to 7:30, and 3 harvest markets on select Saturdays in the fall. The Saturday, October 28th, November 18th, and December 18th. December 16th, excuse me, my slides are wrong there. What I'm most excited to share with you is the newest addition to the market season. We are hosting a special May market on a Saturday, which is not typical for the Queen Anne Farmers Markets. We will be hosting well over 50 vendors as a sort of a preview day to our typical market season. Really excited for this day. It coincides with the Festival of Flowers taking place at Pike Place Market. So we'll have extra farmers selling plant starts as well as cut flowers, a lot of gift options as it coincides with Mother's Day. Really looking forward to previewing our awesome vendor roster with you all in a little bit, a couple slides down the way, but suffice to say, it's a great vendor lineup this year. We'll have plenty of awesome prepared food options and food trucks. The Saturday markets we've found are quite popular with the lunch crowd, and we're looking forward to offering another day. The typical market season gets going on opening day, June 1st. We will have even more farmers and food artisans with us that day. The roster for the season includes 70 farmers, food artisans, and prepared food businesses. We'll have our kids program back, as well as the 2-Bite Challenge. That'll be hosted from 4 to 6:30. We'll also host live music every market day from 4 to 6:30. Our community tent will host different nonprofits and sponsor booths. So all that gets going here very soon, and we're very excited, and I'm very happy to be here with you all sharing tonight. My hope is that everyone can take a little bit of excitement away from today's presentation and share with your neighbors and peers. The market is really a foundational community focused part of the neighborhood, and it doesn't happen without you. Some quick market by the numbers for y'all. Last year we saw just over 88,000 market attendees across our 23 weeks of operation. We had a roster of just over 70 farmers and food artisans. We hosted 23 nonprofit organizations at our community tent throughout the season. Had 14 market sponsors, 3 staff members, and over 30 volunteers. And on the bottom of this slide, you can see sort of a breakdown of who comes to the market. We did a survey just about 5 years ago, kind of sampling who was coming to the market, and well over 3/4 of the attendees are coming from less than 3 miles away. For those of you that have been to the market, it's easy to see on a Thursday. If you're driving on Queen Anne Avenue, you can see just about everyone's headed towards West Crockett Street, and we're happy to be the new town square in that sense, and are happy to see attendance heading on the upward trend. 2020 and 2021 were very challenging years for market attendance, and we're happy to be on the upswing of that. In 2019, our attendance was over 110,000 shoppers. So 2022's attendance indicates to me that we're going to have a heck of a year in the 2023 season. We're also happy to bring back our harvest market dates in the fall. These are additions to our calendar. We started them in 2021 as an opportunity to extend the season and create more opportunities for vendors that may have been excluded during the 2020 and 2021 markets due to pandemic restrictions. And we're listening to the community, and from what we've gathered, folks are really enjoying these Saturday markets. It gives people a chance to attend that may not be able to swing a typical Thursday market. So again, those markets coincide with Halloween, Thanksgiving, and the winter holidays. This is just sort of a sample of some of the promotions that our local artist and illustrator Aaron Bagley put together for our Harvest Market flyers. Next year, we'll have another awesome flyer to distribute in the community, and I'll give you a sample of the poster in just a few slides. But what I want to talk about next is the fantastic roster of different vendors that are going to be joining us. This is quite a lot to take in. I'm sure it may be a little overwhelming to y'all, but just to say the folks that are highlighted in green are new businesses participating at the market. We work every year to keep the roster fresh and to maintain a really strong product mix. There is well over 110 businesses that apply to vend with us on any given season. So it's our job to select the best of the best to come participate and to vend with you during the season. Some of the vendors that I do want to highlight tonight are on the farm side of things, Puget Sound Mushroom and Pantello Farmstead Creamery are two really exciting new farms that are additions this year. We're going to have cow milk, raw cow milk, and cheese from Pantello Farmstead, and our very own mushroom farm through Puget Sound Mushrooms. So those are great additions. A lot of familiar faces on the farm side of things, folks that have built business over the years with our Queen Anne community that we know shoppers are going to be excited to see back. On the food artisan side of things, I just wanted to highlight that we have Fair Isle Brewing joining us this year, a Ballard-based brewery. They are serving up, sours and farm ales. We're also going to host the Bake Shop, which is a Lower Queen Anne coffee and bakery. They'll be specializing in loaf bread. We'll have Burns Vegan Bakery as well. So excited to have more vegan and allergen sensitive options at the market. On the prepared food side of things, we've got 8 food trucks joining us. A new food truck that we're excited to have join us is Italiano. They are a old world Italian style food truck serving up some wonderful hearty dishes, as well as Seattle samosa and kotu, mixing things up. On the beer and wine side of things, we're also joined by Qacc Canyon Winery. They are an organic winery growing their own grapes out of Lyle, Washington. They'll also have organic vinegars to sell. So it should be a great vendor roster. Lots of great new and old businesses joining us again this year. Like I said, the Queen Anne Farmers Market has grown in popularity in the business community to a point where more folks want to join us than we are able to accommodate space for. Here's some fun pictures. While I'm at it, I'll just add that the Queen Anne Farmers Market will be on West Crockett Street and in the Queen Anne Pool parking lot in June, September, and October. We'll expand onto First Avenue West in July and August when McClure Middle School is closed for the summer. We're really excited to continue to use that street when school is out. It was a choice born of necessity during the pandemic to allow us to space out vendors and shoppers, and we have found that it's a great opportunity to give the farmers the amount of space that they're requesting in booth frontage. It's also just become quite a crowded market, and so being able to spread it out across the city block has made things a little bit easier on the customer and vendor experience. Some other stats for y'all. We have a pretty substantial reach on our website and email. If you have not signed up for our newsletter, you can go to qafm.org. The bottom of every web page, go ahead and sign up. We send out weekly updates on what you can expect at market. We have a pretty robust Facebook and Instagram as well. If you don't follow us on social media, we encourage you to do that. And now a sneak peek at the market poster. You're going to see this going up in the community here in the next few days. It is our third poster designed and illustrated by Aaron Bagley. He's a local author and illustrator. He is a resident of Queen Anne. It's been very popular across the last few seasons to have his work. He's helped us expand with the season preview flyer as well as the harvest markets. He's a really great guy. He'll be joining us sometime in June to do another signing of his posters. It's just something that I think is quite unique to Queen Anne having our very own collector poster series. The market is made possible by over 14 different sponsors from around the community. Be remiss if I did not thank our presenting sponsors, Dave Rice of Edward Jones, Metropolitan Market, and Aegis Living of Gaylor and Rogers Park. We are a 501c3 nonprofit funded primarily through individual giving and through our sponsorships, and Give Big is happening. So I would be remiss if I did not also plug our Give Big page. It's been a fabulous campaign so far, and we're very, very close to our fundraising goal of $25,000. If you have not given already or plan to give, please visit our page by midnight. We have quite a few different match opportunities taking place. I'm excited to see y'all at markets, and Paula, if we do have time, I'd be happy to stick around to answer some questions, though I know you have other speakers and other business. But thanks for the time, and looking forward to seeing you at the market May 13th and then June 1st.
Thank you, Matt. I'm starving. I don't know about anybody else, but that made me hungry. So yeah, we definitely have time. I did text Lisa and haven't heard back. So she may have been delayed and may not be able to join us this evening. So we'll just keep a watch and see. Otherwise, we'll continue with the meeting. So are there any other questions for Matt? And I will share, I'll have these slides on the G Drive, so there will be a link so everybody can see them. There'll be a link in the newsletter and stuff, which unfortunately won't get out for a few days, but you will see that. So, Tyler, you have a question.
First of all, just to say it's fantastic. We have loved the Queen Anne Farmers Market for its entire tenure, and I love seeing that it's getting bigger and better and more amazing. And Skinny Kitty has watched my kids grow up. So we have deep relationships with all our farmer friends. My husband laughs. He's like, what do you mean? Right? Because we'll describe like who we got what from. How can we be helpful to you? Right? I think that the Queen Anne family, the farmers market is such a treasure in Queen Anne, and we want to see it continue to thrive. And I know the small businesses that have been a part of it, at least through last year. Bluebird Ice Cream was just saying we need more people to know about us, and we need to continue to get our business back. So I'd love any more strategic input from you around how we really ensure those extraordinary and amazing and beloved small businesses thrive.
That's a great question. And I would say first and foremost, attend market. So we are not moving the entire market to Saturdays, but it's really important in messaging that the first market of the season is on a Saturday, May 13th, and we'll be back for 20 weeks on Thursday, June 1st. So there's a little bit of a pause over Memorial Day weekend, but I would just encourage you to get the word out to your friends, families, and neighbors that market season is coming. And from there are a lot of ways you can support those businesses directly, whether it's joining a farm share CSA or being a patron at their brick and mortar shops. Bluebird Ice Cream, of course, is a Finney Ridge business. So if you find yourself in a different neighborhood, maybe look to those familiar names that you've met at the Queen Anne Farmers Market and frequent the market during the season. We love seeing our repeat shoppers, and Tyler, it's really encouraging to hear that you've known them since your kids were younger, and they are family businesses that are also raising their kids at market too. So that's what I would say is be a patron of the market and attend frequently and get the word out.
Great. Jasmine, you have a question?
Yeah, I really appreciate the expansion that's happened over First, and whatnot. And I know you were saying that there's been so many vendors that are interested that you have to turn them away. And I was wondering if there are plans for future years to expand out, to take up some more space so that we have more vendors that are able to participate.
Yeah, it's a great question. We are doing our best to limit our total impact on the neighborhood. We know it's quite an imposition to close basically a whole city block. And so we're working on ways that allow the pool and the community center to still thrive on Thursdays. That's really important to us. They're major civic buildings that a lot of folks in our community use, whether they're attending the farmers market or not. We're also right in the middle of quite a few residences on West Crockett Street, whether they're in the Sweetbriar Eden Hill building or there are also 2 houses on that street. So we're working with our neighbors to find a way to limit our impacts while expanding the footprint in a sustainable way too. So we don't want to get like too much bigger without being able to support the current businesses. And that's where like the expertise of time and committed volunteers comes in planning a market mix that's going to allow all those small businesses to win. Great question.
Great. Well, we look forward to this season and we look forward to future seasons as well. So thanks, Matt, very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you're welcome to stay if you'd like and hear about what else is going on in Queen Anne. So, okay, so Lisa is not here. And I think what we'll do is go ahead with our committee reports. So I'm sorry. Lisa? No, sorry. I thought that might be her. My apologies. Anyway, so I think let's see. First on the list of committee reports is the elections committee. So very quickly, this is what Beth has told me. So she's been working with Josh, who you all know, of course, Josh Daniel. Beginning in June, we will host candidates for office for I guess we have city council and King County Council. So people who have let us know that they're very interested in coming and presenting at those meetings, they'll have 5 minutes to just kind of introduce themselves and say briefly about why they're running. And then after the primary election is over, then we will actually host our candidate forums as we've always done. And that's in moderated presentation, having the candidates there with some questions that they can answer and you can learn a little bit more about them in depth. So this will all be published. I think we're going to start doing each month now, sort of a list of the primary dates that will be coming up about elections because voting is important and make everybody aware of that and then keep that information front and center. So if you have any thoughts about information that needs to be included, let us know. And otherwise, watch for the newsletter and make sure you have the election dates on your calendar. So that's the election committee and LERC is next. So Denny, you can talk about your LERC meeting.
Okay, hi everybody. I'll try to make this quick. We covered quite a few things during the LERC meeting. I'll give you some of the highlights that you probably find interesting. We went over a little bit of detail on the 21 Boston or the Safeway project. And the biggest highlight there is probably that the schedule and Safeway is still planning on opening October of 2024. The residential above is scheduled to open January 2025. The West Barrett Street project, which we haven't talked about for a while, is the one that is just to the north of the cemetery. And it's a two-phase project, and Graham Black, who's the developer, is hoping that he'll get a permit. He's been trying now for, I don't know, 2-3 years maybe, to start the 7 homes. There's 2 phases. This would be phase 1. There's 7 homes that will be on the east side of the property. And he's hoping to maybe start that this summer, but he said he can't guarantee it yet, but that's what he's hoping for. The 2232 Queen Anne Avenue North project, which is on the corner of McGraw and Queen Anne Avenue North. And it is where the Mexican restaurant used to be. Right now it's for lease. It would be in the southeast corner of that intersection, that bright blue building. And that's a 16-unit building that's supposed to be going up. It's all designed. It's almost through the design process, but they ran into a little snag because a building to the east and a building to the south of them, the sewers all run together underneath that building. So they're trying to work that out. And as soon as they get that worked out, then there might be some action taken. You might see something happening, but they have no idea how long that's going to take. Right now, they're in odds about how they're going to do it. So that's a little bit updates on the projects. And the other thing that we did is we always just opened up our meeting because we were kind of curious about what people had to say about LERC and where the direction they thought maybe we should go to get new ideas. Because as some of you probably know, I've canceled a couple meetings because we just don't have enough information and I don't want to waste people's time. So I thought, well, maybe we could go in a different direction or do more of something else. So as what we did is I said, I don't want to promise anything. We're just going to go down and I want ideas from people. And there was probably, I'm guessing, a dozen people on our call or a little more. And so we went down the list. I kind of put a few people that were just people in the community and kind of, force them to give us some ideas because some of them were a little shy and they did a good job. And so overall, I just took a big long list that Paul and I have talked about. We're going to try to decipher maybe what directions we can go, but it was really just a brainstorming session. So that's kind of, we talked about that. And that was about it. So if you guys have any ideas, I'm still open. You can email me anytime you want, and I'm open for ideas.
Tyler?
Denny, I think one of the things I was just thinking about listening to you, and based on some of the conversations we had last summer, is it would be really interesting to facilitate a conversation around what changes in zoning and movement towards density, what that looks like from a Queen Anne perspective, and to facilitate, right, what the impact of those changes in Olympia will be. So some education for all the rest of us, or being able to see that from many different sides and bringing that to the forum. That's an area I'd love to think through more collectively around. Thank you.
No, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Just quickly, and I can think about a little bit more. Right now, there's so many changes, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how it's going to impact anything, because it could take years or everybody can start doing things tomorrow. But I think it's a great idea that everybody at least know what some of the changes in the legislature and everything is happening. So if somebody tears down a house beside you and puts 6 units there, you won't be surprised.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. So yeah, sometimes Denny will have to work on, Denny will have to work on finding the right resources to speak to that, because part of it's going to be based on legislation, and then part of it will of course be based on, city rules and regulations and how those are interpreted. So anyway, that could be a couple of different meetings, but yeah, good ideas. I know some of the things, and I'll just throw this out there because some of the things that came up in the discussion at Denny's meeting, which I didn't attend because I was on vacation, but were not necessarily LERC related. They were more just general things that people thought would be great for this community council to do. So I think at the end of the meeting, if we still have time and people want to kick some ideas around, Denny, if you have that list, you could just rattle them off. And if you don't, that's fine. And otherwise we can just have people throw some things out, because some were the kinds of things like that I kind of call, do good things in the neighborhood sorts of ideas, not necessarily specific to regulations or zoning or
To
alert
Lurky.
issues or anything. So, yeah. So anyway, so thank you,
I
Danny.
have the list, Paula, so I mean, if you want to later or whatever, I could go it quick, or we come back to it, whatever you prefer.
Let's save it and come back at the end if we have time and everything,
Okay,
since
perfect.
it's not specific to lurk.
Okay.
The next committee on the list is Parks. Don is, again, as I said, he's hiking in the John Day fossil beds, so he's having a good time. And anyway, so really quickly, we have been super busy on Parks things, and I'll give a shout out to Parker Dawson, who's here helping get some meetings set up on a number of projects that are related to parks, that we have either on the boards or that we've actually held. So just starting at the top, the Queen Anne Community Council, as most of you may know, there was a small project, not small, but a smaller project that was going to be done that kept the community center closed for about a year to do some upgrades that were required. And then we're successful in getting some money through the Parks Levy to actually do an extensive remodel of the community center. We won't get a completely new community center, but it will be a pretty decent remodel. So we met collectively with the parks people, the people from the Queen Anne Queen Anne Community Center Advisory Council, and then Don and I were there from this group to just have an initial meeting to kick it off and to know who we are, to talk about the fact that it's the first of what we hope will be many meetings. There will be community-wide public meetings as well. But because they are already, in process of, they've selected a contractor to do the work, and we wanted to be able to be as early as possible in that discussion about what kinds of modifications are needed to the facility, but more importantly, what kinds of things will be needed in the future to accommodate the programming. And so that's where the community center people come in, where the advisory council comes in, because they're really focused on all the programs that are going on at the community center. So look for a lot more communications on this, and probably fairly soon a public meeting about the community center remodel and what's going on. So that was one. We also have not got a meeting scheduled, but we did meet with Councilmember Lewis's office about the concept for the returf project at the Big Howe Playfield. They're at the community center and at McClure Middle School. Everybody probably knows that. And we met with the sports team's representatives who've been very actively involved in promoting this. So the project was one of three at the top of the list, one of three before I think COVID hit, but I'm sorry, that's Lisa calling. In any event, but now there are a number of other projects that have been interspersed, and it looks like this particular project is going to get pushed out. We're really pressing hard to have it put in the schedule earlier. We'll see how that goes. But one of the caveats that we had is that if that field is going to be improved at quite a significant expense, it needs to no longer be an off-leash dog park. And since the city had produced a list of potential areas for consideration for off-leash dog areas, we also took the time and invested the effort in taking those 4 sites that they had listed, visiting them, doing an analysis of, which ones tick what boxes on the list of what makes a good dog park area. And so we have a proposal that was submitted to the Parks Department for that as well. So that meeting is coming up. We'll at least have that preliminary discussion because to us, it's sort of a tandem deal. we can't make several $1 million of improvement in Big How if it's going to be abused and torn up by dogs off leash. So we have what we think is a really good solution. We just need parks to agree and work with us on having those two things happen in parallel so that they're ready to go. So that's Big How and the dog park. And I think that's it for parks. So
Paula,
yes,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I thought you were done with
I
that.
think I am.
Okay, I just wanted to, I know you've been working hours on this stuff, and there's been a lot of meetings that I don't think anybody knows about, but because I get involved more with the building stuff and all that with you, I would like to acknowledge and thank you for, you spent hours and hours. It sounds like it's easy, but the amount of time you have spent to get some of this and the dog park and all this stuff has been remarkable. And I want to thank you for your time, because I'm not sure everybody would do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm, I'm not, I mean, obviously I go to our encyclopedia, Don, on parks. and he has a lot of historical information that makes it really helpful. And then we put together the argument. So that's really what this has been about. But it's very nice to see some things actually now starting to happen and move forward. And we're actually having some meetings and discussions. So that's always promising, because for, of course, several years, nothing has been happening. So thank you. Thanks, Danny. I appreciate that. Next committee is public safety. And Tyler, I'll let you say what you have to say. And then Bill has an announcement that he wants to make about emergency preparedness. And I can update everybody on the Hillside Motel, which is an interesting development. So Tyler, do you have?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, Paula, and thank you so much for all that you've done. I was going to kick off saying that I have been learning how to get in this, and you have filled such big shoes, and you do so much that figuring out the landscape and also figuring out how to be strategic has slowed me down. And so I just wanted to give a few bits of saying, one, now that Paula is back and can give me another 101 about getting the notice out, we will have a smaller working meeting this month. We have not had that chance to come together and connect the pieces. And so I'm looking forward to that. I wanted to just share a couple of the things that have been on my mind, drawing from a number of the threads. Paula has really been captaining the crime and safety and working with the local businesses and trying to think from my vantage point, how to strategically support and amplify her leadership on that, and bring in the areas that have been top of mind for me around, now that the crisis care levy has passed, what does implementation, what does oversight, accountability, what does it look like? And I think that that's a conversation I'm really interested in bringing to the broader council and or just to the public safety working group, so that we can talk to Leo Floor and those who are tasked with implementing that. So we're getting our arms around what is the behavioral health system that can be addressing the challenges we see. Another hot topic, and Denny, why I was thinking about, let's see if we can maybe get some of our legislators and other folks to think through as this zoning question is emerging. It was top of mind for me because of this question around drug use and what is going to happen and what will take place at the special session. And Paula and I had a great discussion about, can we hear from our legislators and understand what the dynamics are, what we need to know as a community group of what the issues are at stake and at a city level. So that's another area that I'm trying to get my head wrapped around, get my arms around, and would love to work with more collaborators and really activate our working group in. And the last piece that I wanted to put on the table before I pass over to Bill to give us that emergency preparedness update is gun safety as a key concern of mine, and one that I would love us to continue to learn about and be partners on. And in that vein, I will be sharing out, and I can put it in the chat as well, the Alliance for Gun Safety, which has both a political arm, but also a 501c3 civic education arm, civic engagement arm, because I know our focus is on the civic engagement and understanding piece. They're having their annual lunch to laud the accomplishments that we have made politically in Washington state, but also to focus on the experiences of young people with gun violence as a public health crisis. And that is going to be on May 15th. It is at the Westin. It is at noon. There is no cost to attend. I would love for you all to join me at my table there. And it's a real opportunity just to hear from the mayor and other folks and researchers and community members who are impacted, what the key issues are, and what we can do in our respective community groups to be partners around that. So I'm translating this across with Beth, hopefully in the very near future, to think about how these issues of public safety come forward in our conversations with candidates when it is that time of year. And thank you all again. And over to you, Bill.
Before
Tyler.
you
Oh,
Before you
sorry.
go, Bill, I'm sorry, just really quick. Tyler, if you can forward something about the luncheon to me, I think you had, but I'm not sure that I have it. Anyway, then I'll make sure it's in the newsletter as well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please go
That's
ahead.
okay. Well, there are communication hubs which are organized and prepared to stand up in the case of major disasters or emergencies. And I'm the hub captain of the Queen Anne Hub, which is just outside the Queen Anne Center. Coming up on Sunday, June 11th, we're going to have a citywide drill or scenario. And so I'll be standing up the hub. And so I need as many volunteers to come by and just see how we operate one of these hubs, and maybe even participate in how we take messages and move information around. These are communication hubs in collaboration with the amateur radio people that work for the Office of Emergency Management. So they'll be also sending messages around the city via radio. And so that we need as many people as possible to help show up and see what we do with communication hubs. That's Sunday, June 11th. That's it. Questions? Danny?
Just a quick question. What time is that, Bill?
Oh, well, think about 1 o'clock, 1:30.
1:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll be sure and get something in the newsletter about that too, but in case people wonder what the heck is going on. So, great. Okay, thank you. Transportation. Jasmine.
Yeah, we have again moved over to every other month cadence, and so we didn't meet in April, but we will be meeting on the last Tuesday of May, and that puts us at the 30th. So we'll put out a email about a week in advance to remind folks and ask for any issues that folks want to talk about, discuss, and yeah. Please join us. It's at 7:30.
Great. And one other thing. So I'm sorry, Danny, you have a question, but on, I think it's the 11th, I'd have to look at the calendar. We have arranged a walkabout with Director Spots for a tour of Aurora because the Aurora Avenue project is still out there. There's been a bit of a change in the timing for funding. It wouldn't necessarily impact our segment of Aurora, but it does sort of delay some of the activity that was expected. So nevertheless, we're doing the walkabout with Director Spots. We'll walk down Aurora and look at everything we can see there that doesn't work very well for our community, and be better prepared to share that not only with the community, but with him and with SDOT when that whole project really gets active. So I haven't spoken to SDOT directly to know what the funding change will do to their level of priority on that project, and whether or not they're going to be sort of putting it on the back burner a little bit or just proceeding as usual. So more to come on that, but that's very exciting to have him coming to talk with us. Anything else? The only other thing that I have to comment on is the Hillside Motel, which everyone is very familiar with. We actually met at the Hillside with the people from Inland Capital, who are the owners of the property, to their dismay, but they are, in any event. And there has been some activity recently. The property was vacated again, and it was actually secured by the fire department this time. They did an absolutely phenomenal job, but that's not to mean that people won't be back in there pretty soon. In any event, so it's very clear that and there have been demolition permits requested. So that's happening, but there are a couple of hoops to jump through. One is there has to be a survey of all of the trees on the property before there can be even demolition of the buildings. And there also has to be I think it's a survey of the property itself because of the critical slope, so that whatever they're doing doesn't potentially cause a slide, because it's that motel building, not the eightplex, is burned out, but the motel building, the back of that building actually forms a retaining wall for part of that slope. So it's likely that when they are able to demolish the rest of it, they're still going to have to put some buttresses up to hold that wall in place. And anyway, so once that's done, then the property can be secured to the extent possible. It will remain for sale. But then the challenge will at least not continue to be having people in there, because there's continue to be drug activity, and lots of stolen property has been stored in that facility, those two buildings. So, and in fact, there was a recent incident which sort of escalated this whole thing. So that's the latest on that. But we're hoping that we'll be drinking champagne sometime this year to celebrate that property finally being fully dealt with. So, Benny, did you have a question earlier? I think I may have skipped over you. I apologize.
No, that's fine. It wasn't that big a one. And Paul, I don't know if it's really to you or to Jasmine about transportation. And I was just curious, do we have any kind of an update on the crossing at Coe Elementary, where it is, or is it, you have any kind of an update?
Yes, really quickly. So that's been on hold just because SDOT, I mean, the project is still going to happen, but it got pushed out on their schedule. So I checked just before I left on my trip, and was reconfirmed that the project will be finished before school starts in September. So that's as definitive time as I have. As soon as we get something that's just a little bit more definitive, we'll be able then to sort of rekindle public notice and activity around it. We'll probably have a relaunch and start talking about that project again, because it will be really nice to have it done, and very nice to have it done before school starts. So that we can have safe crossings for kids and runners and old people. So anyway,
Okay.
yeah. Thanks,
Thank
Dan.
you.
Yeah. And I'm going to stop us there because Lisa Mannion has joined us. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm sorry I couldn't take your call, but we were in the middle of our meeting. So thank you. We appreciate that you were able to join us even with your hectic day today.
Well, I have to say, I want to say thank you to this group, and thank you for everyone's grace. I explained to Paula in a text, and I'm so glad you texted me, that this meeting, I didn't realize this meeting had been added to my calendar. And I have been off site all day because I had all of my criminal chiefs, assistant chiefs, and HR director in a strategic planning team building session. So I wasn't in the office near email today. And I'm sorry I look kind of a mess because I just came from gym. I just took a HIIT class. So but happy to be here. So happy to share updates. I chatted with someone, my executive assistant. I was like, please let this team know I'll join as soon as I can. And she let me know that you guys had some questions. So happy to answer questions. happy to talk about some of the changes I've announced since January. So, however you'd like to proceed.
Okay, well, great. I did have a glowing introduction because Lisa's background is in fact glowing. So I'm not going to forego that because she deserves these accolades. So just by way of background, for those of you who don't know her, Lisa's the first person of color. She has a list of firsts. First person of color, first Asian American to be elected to serve as King County prosecuting attorney. And she's the first Korean American woman in the United States to be elected as prosecuting attorney. So that's a stellar list of firsts. Prior to her election, Lisa served for 15 years as chief of staff to King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, during which time she worked to implement programs that improve public safety and enhance victim services, and reduce racial disproportionality. So she was co-founding partner of Choose 180, which is a diversion program focused on helping reduce juvenile crime, and was the leader in helping launch the Regional Domestic Violence Firearm Enforcement Unit, aimed at tracking and enforcing extreme risk protection orders, which we know about. Thank you, Carolyn. And managing surrendered firearms across King County. Lisa serves on the boards of the Alliance of Gun Responsibility, for Gun Responsibility, the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, a Korean Prosecutors Association. She's a member of the Korean American Bar Association of Washington and a former board member for Pioneer Human Services and the Beechers Foundation. She was an advisor for an MIT-sponsored program focusing on improved public safety and policing in the United States, and was a member of the Juvenile Prosecutors Leadership Network, which was organized within Georgetown University's Center for Juvenile Justice Reform. And in her spare time, and when she's not attending community council meetings, she enjoys spending time with her 2 teenage children and her partner, Perry Tarrant, who is a retired assistant police chief and former president of NOBLE, which is the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. So with that, Lisa, thank you again so much for joining us. And I can post the questions that were presented. There were just 3 questions, but they're fairly broad. And so let me review those quickly. And then I think really what we'd like is just to hear about how things are going in the King County Prosecutor's Office, because you are new to the office and you took on a huge challenge, of course, when you took that role. So the first question was, since taking office, what changes have you made to policies and programs that were previously in place? And for example, with regard to contractors in the Restorative Community Pathways Program, in regard to how the office is dealing with the significant case backlog and staffing challenges. So I'm sure you can update us on that. How is your office handling chronic repeat offenders? Do you have a program similar to Seattle's frequent flyer program for repeat offenders? And I know, of course, you're doing felony prosecutions, but then also, and then if you wish to, or if you can, how would the failure of our state legislature to pass a continuation or any kind of legislation around drug possession and public use, how will that impact your job as the King County prosecutor? So
Sure. Well, let me take those maybe in reverse order.
okay.
I think it's great that the legislature is going to go into special session to try to come up with a Blake fix. That's what we inside the prosecuting attorney's office and many lawmakers call it. I think some folks, by way of background, our Washington State Supreme Court ruled that our drug possession statute was unconstitutional because you could possess drugs and not know it. And so the state legislature back in 2021, made drug possession a misdemeanor. But first, lawmakers or prosecutors had to be able to prove that someone was offered treatment at least twice, or diversion treatment at least twice. The challenge with that is that one, there's no central database to keep track of that. And there also wasn't any kind of funding that went along with that to kind of meet the size and the scope of the problem. You know, I know that there are a lot of individual municipalities and local governments that are talking about, hey, we need to tackle this and maybe we should come up with our own individual statutes. You know, I think it's great and wise that municipalities are giving thoughtful consideration to how to effectively address drug addiction and its root causes. I mean, it's difficult and devastating for us to see the human toll that drug addiction has had on all of our communities and also drug use. So, you know, I support that, and I'll support our state lawmakers in coming up with a statewide solution. But one of the things that I think can be a challenge is that even if the state were to adopt a statewide fix, many municipalities are going to have to craft a local ordinance that mirrors the state law, if that's what they wish to do, in order to have the proper jurisdiction to handle this. The city of Seattle and other municipalities have said that they have the desire and the resources to address public drug use as misdemeanor crimes. It's different than possession. They've also pledged to advance evidence-based policies and services to help people break the cycles of addiction. And I think we can all agree that that twofold approach can be very effective. Because ultimately, I think at the very core, we all want the behavior to stop. And I think we can also all agree that there's nothing magical about prosecution and jail time that ends addiction. But what we want is to be able to disrupt the behavior and be able to have an effective way to get people to services. I'll stop with that and answer any questions if folks have questions regarding public drug use, Blake fix, drug legislation. Okay, the other thing that you had talked about was whether the prosecuting attorney's office has something very similar to Seattle's, you called it frequent flyer, so now that's what's stuck in my head. We have a high pro list, it's high impact prolific offender list, and we actually have a really strong partnership with the Seattle City Attorney's Office. I'm really grateful to Ann Davison for her leadership, and the relationship and the cooperation between our offices has never been greater. And we trade notes on individuals who are cycling both in and out of our justice system, but also cycling in and out of our treatment systems. Sometimes they're the same people, but sometimes they're different. And what we're doing is working together to ensure that we are, in some instances, we're aggregating the loss of value, or the value of loss in some misdemeanor crimes so that we can file felony charges for greater accountability. Organized retail theft is something that comes to mind. And these aren't individuals who are stealing to meet basic needs. These are individuals who are systematically preying upon businesses and sometimes putting small businesses either at risk of going out of business or out of business because they simply can't afford to take on that type of loss. And we've had an impact. And, you know, I think for those who were following some of the reports from the Downtown Seattle Association, they're reporting a drop in violent crime and property crime in the downtown core. That's not a sign for us to stop. It's a sign that the collaboration is working and that we can take it to the next level. And that's really about how do we, Ann and I, work together to change the landscape on two things. One, ensuring that there's additional treatment options and capacity, and then also really working hard to get our state lawmakers to focus on competency restoration. And these are individuals who have been charged with crimes but have been determined by a judge to be incompetent to stand trial. And what that means legally is that the legal standard is that they cannot appreciate the charges that have been brought against them, or they cannot participate in their own defense. And so competency restoration isn't quite the same as mental health treatment. It's really about getting folks to that level. it's a function that belongs solely to the state of Washington. And there are some individuals who are waiting upwards of 9, 10, 12 months to get a bed at Western State to have their competency restored. And, the focus has been on felony crimes, which means that those who commit misdemeanors and are deemed incompetent don't have that option at all. So I'm hoping that's something that we can have some candid conversations about over the course of the summer and fall, and come up with a plan to work with lawmakers so that we can really address this in a robust way going into the next session. Are there any questions about any of that?
I have a question about it, Lisa. In terms of the competency, so how would you see it? I mean, how do you see being able to accelerate or reduce the time period that it's taking? Because that seems to be a major problem.
The delay is related entirely to capacity. Ann Davison and I co-authored an op-ed in the Seattle Times to address this very issue. I happened to run into the governor at a social event and bent his ear on this, and he's invited me to speak to his chief legal counsel. In fact, we're chatting tomorrow. And, I think about the urgency with which our state lawmakers acted at the start of the pandemic. And I think that there are some things that we can do. In the spring, early spring, I read about the 400 individuals who are awaiting, certification or their licenses to be approved. That's 400 mental health providers that we could use in our state. So can we clear the backlog on getting those licenses approved? And so many of those individuals have actually been practicing in other states. So that seems like one thing. Could we partner with local hospitals if bed space is an issue? Are there community-based organizations or hospitals or other medical facilities that the state could contract with? Could they offer an incentive? Could they fly and ask for workers from other states and pay a premium to have them come and do a temporary duty assignment, if you will, to kind of meet the immediate need to get through some of the backlog, right? Or some of the crushing caseload. So those are some ideas that we've suggested. I'm looking forward to chatting with Catherine Leathers tomorrow. I'm hoping that she might have ideas. And I will say, I did hear about some legislation that ultimately did not go forward, but there was some consideration of trying to make this a local government function. And I think the challenge about that is if that is the plan or the intent, it has to come with resources, because right now all of those dollars belong to the state. So I'm glad that whatever, and maybe that was just a rumor, it didn't come to fruition, but we're going to have to put some dollars behind this, and we're going to have to really be thoughtful and strategic and intentional. And I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, and I don't think it'll be a surprise to Catherine tomorrow. I'm happy to be a good partner, but I think we have to be really honest about what our challenges are, not shy away from them.
Yep, good point. Okay.
And then what was your first question? We've been chatting. The first question was about changes that I've made.
Actually, I see, Sean, do you have a question? Oh, no.
I was just clapping my hands saying, I agree with Lisa Mannion 100% that we need to have resources. And I worked as a True Blood MHP in Thurston County Jail and work on the LEAD program, and know that True Blood class members, disproportionately are the clients that we work with that are the most vulnerable and need the most help. So it's just really refreshing to hear, Lisa Mannion and people in these positions that really understand the implications of, these issues, and are really looking at innovative ways to address these issues. So I was just really happy to hear that.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, Lisa, so the first question was really just talk about what changes you've made in the prosecutor's office since taking over, different policies and programs, and then also how you've been able to address things like contractors and restorative community pathways program, and also dealing with significant case backlog and staffing. I'm sure those were challenges. So.
Sure. Well, you know, after being elected into the position, but before taking office, and even after January 1, I took a lot of time to do listening sessions with employees, law enforcement, community-based providers, and other partners in our work. And internally and externally, three main themes emerged. There was a call for innovation in all parts of the office. There was a call for additional leadership positions within the office. My legal service professionals and deputy prosecutors didn't want to feel like they had to wait for their supervisors to retire in order to have a shot at leadership. And three, there was a desire for additional training for both prosecutors and legal service professionals, not just concrete trial skills, but supervisor training, professional development training, leadership development training, race, equity, social justice training. So I've been hard at work delivering on all of those platforms. On January the 24th, I announced the creation of 2 new divisions to signal to our community and to our office that there are certain areas that we needed to be more intentional in our focus, and also be more forthright in calling out the very kind of serious nature of these behaviors in our community. So I created a gender-based violence and prevention division, and that brand new division has a brand new chief. So it serves the purpose of adding an additional leadership opportunity. That chief reports directly to me as a signal to the office and the community that this area of practice really matters. And it houses our domestic violence, our sexual assault, our sexually violent predator, our hate crimes unit, our regional domestic violence firearm enforcement unit, Project Safety, which provides civil legal aid to victims of domestic violence, and our brand new gun violence prevention unit. So we just hired a chief for that division. Her name is Bridget Merriman. I made the decision to improve our sexual assault practice by dividing it in 2 different lines of business. And this was based on community and service provider and law enforcement feedback that they wanted the prosecuting attorney's office to be more intentional in how it handled and responded to sexual assault cases involving adult victims. And internally in my office, I heard from employees that when they have 2 cases on their desk, one involving a child victim and one involving adult victim, that they often gravitated naturally toward providing priority attention to the child victim, because children are especially vulnerable in different ways. But I also have some prosecutors who don't want to work on child abuse or child sexual assault cases because it's so very heavy. I see this a lot in brand new parents, and I wanted to be able to honor that. And so it also served the additional purpose of creating an additional unit chair position, an additional leadership opportunity, and the ability for someone to really develop an expertise in both areas. We're in the process of interviewing for those unit chair positions. Last Wednesday, I held the first of a series of public safety summits, and that first public safety summit was geared toward obtaining feedback and talking very directly with service providers and law enforcement about how we can improve our response to adult sexual violence cases. And there were about 35, 40 in the room, law enforcement, service providers and advocates from Qacc, the Sexual Violence Law Center, the University of Washington, City of Seattle. It was really a very robust discussion, and one that was very much welcomed. I received a lot of really positive feedback from law enforcement and from our partners who just said how important it was to have that conversation. I also created an economic crimes and wage theft division. One thing I learned from labor on the campaign trail is that wage theft is the silent epidemic and it disproportionately impacts women, BIPOC, and migrant workers. And not only is there great confusion about how to report such crime, their law enforcement doesn't know how to investigate that type of crime, and there hasn't been a response, or systematic response in our state. So I wanted to definitely elevate and bring attention to that part of a new practice for us. I'm sorry, my dog is barking. You guys are being so gracious. I also wanted to make sure that we continued our really good partnership on addressing organized retail theft. So this new division houses organized retail theft, mortgage fraud, complex fraud, elder abuse. Many elder abuse cases are financial. And it also houses our new wage theft prosecution. We just hired our new chief. His name is Qacc. He has about 20 years of experience in the office and really kind of a statewide expert in many of these areas. So I'm super excited. And then today I was able to hold a strategic planning and team building session with my previous chiefs and my new chiefs. It was a really fantastic event. RCP specifically, I want to make sure I address that part of your question. The King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office does not hold the contracts for the RCP service providers. Those contracts are held by the executive branch, and those contracts are managed by the Department of Health and Community Services, or the Department of Health and Community Services. And so I know that the executive branch is examining those contracts. I know that we've had a couple of service providers leave. I have heard that the executive branch is doing a systematic review of that work. And yesterday, my team met with some members of public health and DCHS to talk about how we can negotiate, if you will, a new partnership under a new prosecutor that allows us to more readily share information with the community partners that provide those services. Up until, well, I would say even currently, the community very much feels like that is a community-owned program and project and diversion program, and they're having good results and they're successful. I think the challenge has been that we in the prosecuting attorney's office and others in King County want to just know, like, what do the numbers look like? What does success look like? What are some personal stories? I can respect and appreciate that the community service providers want to be very protective of people's privacy, and that they're very much protective about the types of narratives that can be told when information is taken out of context. So the conversation we had yesterday is about how we can approach that desire and build from common ground and to build a trusting relationship where the community trusts that we in the prosecuting attorney's office aren't going to exploit it in any sort of way, right? That our shared interest is ensuring that young people stay out of the system, that the programs are working as intended. And I think people are curious about the number because it goes to the heart of capacity, effectiveness, and are these programs funded in a way that's appropriate? Is the funding too little, too much, just right? And it's really hard to drive down into those details when we don't have a shared understanding about what we need to show that. So I'm encouraged that we will get there. I'm encouraged that our community is able to meet us there. And I'm really encouraged that people in my office will be able to match the community in their shared values and wanting to be respectful, and also not wanting young people and their families to be exploited. So I am happy to come back and report how those conversations go. This isn't a one and done, just so you guys know. And there was another question, or was there more? Are there questions on the line that people are curious about.
Yeah, if anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll do it. I guess the other question was just, how is the backlog going?
Oh, thank you so much for asking about that. The executive has assigned a dedicated program manager. Her name is Jennifer Hills. She's someone that I've known for a long time because of my work in the county. Tremendous leader, an innovator, really productive and able to move the dial on important conversations. She has met with Superior Court, public defenders, and prosecutors kind of separately in the Department of Judicial Administration, which is the clerk's office. And she convened a conversation late January, early part of February. And I will say, I had two very clear reactions to the conclusion of that conversation. One, I thought it was really important that we got in the room and we shared information about numbers. The backlog is going down. We are having an impact. My office is focusing and the court is focusing on getting sexual assault, violent crimes to trial. So just through like hard work, and I will say my people are in back-to-back trials. We actually got the court to give us a small concession that when a deputy prosecuting attorney finishes closing argument in the morning, that they don't go out and start a new trial in the afternoon, that they actually need like a 1-day break in between to kind of recharge the batteries. And that seems so obvious probably to most people on this call, but my people were not, that's how they were operating. So we got that small concession. I thought the challenge was the willingness to recognize that we're really going to have to do some really big new things because the pandemic was so disruptive and it was a major force of disruption. And business as usual and working harder, it's having an impact, but it's not going to have the impact that we want. And I really, really repeated this many times because I feel so strongly about it. We know that our COVID relief dollars expire at the end of 2024. And it is my strong desire that we not have a backlog at the end of 2024. Just because, one, we were given resources, and two, I know how hard our everyday work is. I'm working really hard to get our people to be at a place where we are filing this week's cases this week, that our trials are more current, that resolution of cases happens more quickly. And it's hard to do that when we also know we have backlog. So it's a yes, and yes, it's going down, and we still have some important work to do. And, I don't get to control the court or the public defenders who are important partners in this, but I do have a team of people who care, and we can show up differently. And that's my challenge to them. And so I'm happy to come back and report on some of that too, because we're starting to have those conversations right now.
Great. Yeah, I think we would love to have you come back on some kind of quasi-regular basis so that we can, hear about how things are going, especially the things you've already talked about. And there will, of course, always be new things coming up too. So are there any questions for Lisa? And I don't see any hands.
I have a question.
Yes, Leba, go ahead.
It's not specifically about Queen Anne. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, I just hear horrible statistics on domestic violence against women. And I'm wondering if it's gotten any easier to get protection orders.
It has gotten easier because there was a change in law and it happened, I think it was last session. It went into effect last year, where it really helped streamline all of our protection orders. Pardon? The law went into effect in the June of 2022, but we did some work beforehand. And it really streamlined the protection orders, sexual assault protection orders, domestic violence protection orders, civil no contact orders, ERPOs. And in our office, I have a dedicated team of people who really work well together. And, you know, one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that it allowed us to move many of those application processes online. And so our current challenge is just ensuring that we don't go back to old ways of doing things simply because more folks are returning to work in person. And a lot of the court functions are moving from a hybrid online in-person model to sometimes just in person. The value of allowing petitioners to apply online is that it was an access to justice issue. You know, people didn't have to come down to the courthouse. They didn't have to find childcare. They didn't have to arrive and find that the protection order team was at lunch and they only had a narrow window. So yes, it's improved. And could we use more resources? Absolutely. But I will say I'm encouraged because those are conversations that we're having in King County every single week. Those are regular conversations. It's not something that gets put on the back burner.
Because years ago, I was with someone who violated a restraining order twice, and the judge shut me down. The prosecutor went crazy because he had 10 violations with his first wife.
Oh, I'm so sorry you had that experience.
Sarah, who worked there, she's probably moved on, but the judge said, well, there isn't enough proof that abuse occurred. And my lawyer spelled everything out. He was very detailed. I'm like, why didn't the judge just say, well, look, buddy, you've already violated a restraining order twice in 3 months. You know, the judge turned around.
I'm sorry you had that experience. And you know, this is a very small consolation, but it's because of experiences like yours that inspired prosecutors and advocates to demand change and to provide better training and to enlist the help of lawmakers to make the lift easier.
I mean, at the time, my dad was still alive and he was a lawyer. And he said, well, you still have the other order. No, I still had but a protection order stronger, right?
I didn't hear.
I still had a restraining order.
Oh.
And my dad pointed that. My dad was alive back then and he was a lawyer. And he said, you know, well, you have the other order.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, you know, let your office know that women need protection orders and we're not lying.
Oh, my office, you don't have to convince my advocates. You don't have to convince my prosecutors.
Preaching to the choir. Okay.
Yeah. But thank you for being brave and sharing your story. Thank you.
I don't think women lie about TV. Why would you lie about something so horrible?
Yeah, right.
So I'm done.
Thanks, Liba. Okay, well, I think I didn't see any other questions, so thank you, Lisa. We'll let you go. Maybe you get to have some dinner now.
Well, let me again apologize for being late. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for allowing me to show up as my real human self. And thank you for your thoughtful questions. And I'm happy to come back. And I'm always open to answering questions and even in between visits. Paula has my email address. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And we'll definitely be having you back. So we appreciate your time. So
all right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Great. I'm so happy that she was able to make it because that's, you know, it's really good to hear from that organization and what's going on. So circling back, one of the things that I just want to quick vote by hand because I can see everybody on my screen. So I just want to make sure that everybody kind of agrees that we're hoping, we'll see what timing works out because I know that Inslee is trying to get the legislature back as special session to discuss the drug possession law. And what I would like to do is see if we can get our state representatives to a meeting, and it would probably be timely and prudent, I would think, if it's not premature, at our June meeting. So I'd like to think about having that conversation with them, and possibly also Ann Davison, Sarah Nelson, and Alex Peterson, who have put together the proposed city legislation in case, I guess, the state legislation doesn't work, but the proposal for the ordinance in the city. Anyways, so that each of those groups can talk about this issue from their respective perspectives, so that we're at least informed about what's happening. So is there anyone who thinks that's a really bad idea? No? Good. Okay, then we're going to do it, or we're going to try to do it. Again, this is so we can understand, one, what's happening in the state legislature, how our state representatives are looking at this, what are their concerns, so forth and so on. And then similarly, just to understand from the city side what they're working on and how that might be different or might not, and how, if it is, how will those two things mesh. Okay, let's see what else we have on the list. I think actually that may be it. Did I miss any committees? I feel like I've missed one, but maybe not. And I think we'll skip tonight trying to do a brainstorming session. It's already 8:20, 8:30, I guess. So I appreciate everybody's time, and maybe we can do that in another session. We did have an offer to have the community booth at the farmers market, and I'm gonna probably just pick a date. A couple of them, our first two choices to be there in June, were not available. So we have July, August, September, October. I've got a date in July, I think that would be great. Otherwise, and it's kind of middle July. Otherwise, I think maybe September would be better when people are back from vacation. In the event. So I am going to ask, when we get that date set, to ask everybody on our board to please put your hand up for an hour at the farmers market. It's fun.
Only if you bring toys, Paula. And
I'll bring
the kid attraction.
We'll bring toys, and Bill Fay will reverse engineer them to the delight of everyone. So Bill is our star performer in any event. But yeah, so we'll have things that are fun for the kids, because then they can drag their moms and dads over. And anyway, it's also a great opportunity for us to do something that I've talked a little bit about, and we haven't just had a chance to do. And that's kind of a public meet and greet, because there are many people in our community who don't know anything about this organization. They don't know who we are, and it would be really nice if they did. So, and I think at Denny's Lurk meeting, some of the things that people were saying they'd like to see this community council be more actively involved with were the kinds of things where we're doing good deeds in the community, and doing them in a way that lets people know that we are there, and we're there trying to help the community and make it a better place. So anyway, so when we get some dates, when the farmers market tells us what dates they will be able to accommodate us, then I'll let everybody know, and hopefully we'll get a good turnout. So I appreciate that. Is there anything else that anybody has that they want to talk about before we wrap up? Okay. Hearing nothing, I appreciate everybody being here, and we'll see everyone in June. And thanks again.
Thank you, everybody. Have
Thanks,
a good
Paula.
night.
Good night. Yeah, you're welcome.
Paula, this was a good meeting, more interesting than usual. Thank
Good.
you.
Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you.
I'd love to do the farmer's market, even more than an hour.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I need our board members there, Leba, but thank you so much.
Oh, I thought when you said from this board, I thought you meant
I'm
the whole-
sorry. Oh, no. I'm sorry. No, this is the Queen Anne Community Council board people that I need to show up and be, there and shiny and smiling. So thank you
can't
so
do
much.
it then? You don't want me? Okay.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, see you next month.
Good night.
Bye.